Good afternoon. Welcome to the Advanced WMS webinar series. My name is Shanna Blackstone, and I work here at VIP with our WMS team. Today, I'm going to talk about how to perform task-based counting in EasyOps. So if you are not familiar with EasyOps, it is our web-based application that allows users to perform warehouse operations wirelessly, such as receiving and counting inventory. So this is going to be our first task-based option, and soon you'll be able to perform all the task-based options with EasyOps within the next few months and into Q1 as well. So before I get started, I thought I would take some time to explain what is the difference between non-task counting and task-based counting. So for those of you not using LBI, you are performing non-task-based counting. You have product in various locations physically in your warehouse and a system total. What you do not have is a file in VIP that separates the system total into totals by locations. So when you count inventory, you must count everywhere the product exists in your warehouse. So this count right here is then compared to the system total. So 205 cases compared to the system total of 205 cases. With task-based counting, on the other hand, notice that you now have a layer file in VIP. So because of this, we can create count tasks based on locations. When a user counts that location, he is simply comparing the layer file, and then in this case, we're assigning only the pick location to be counted. So as long as the user's count matches the amount in the pick location in the layer file, the user is actually done counting at this time. So by using task-based counting, customers can count less overall product so that they can focus on only certain locations to balance to, rather than balancing to the whole warehouse. So for example, most of our LBI customers count just the pick locations, as those have the most movement on a day-to-day basis. This also allows them to count more of their products more frequently. So by counting just the pick locations, you ensure you check in on each product potentially every single day. By counting more often, we see smaller variances. Smaller variances with only a day or two from the last count. It makes researching that variance much easier. Also, this process allows supervisors to assign specific products or locations to their staff, so staff can come in, pick up a device, and get right to work. Supervisors can also easily make updates to inventory on the fly without having to continuously print reports, since this is a wireless program. And since you can now schedule exactly how much you're going to be counting each day, you can more efficiently staff the warehouse as well. One of the last things that is available to use, you can gather statistics on the number of count tasks that you will into this seminar. So in order to use task-based counting and count task variances, you must be actively using VIP's location-based inventory as well. You have to be on version 14 or 15, the latest, and EasyOps licenses can be acquired from your VIP sales rep. So now that we know what we need, let's get set up to start counting. So for those of you already using task-based counting with the RF units, the following setup procedures haven't changed at all. In order to start counting, you have to create groups of tasks and assign them a group number. So you can group tasks by locations. For example, I want to count all of my pick locations. Or you can group tasks by product. For example, I want to count all of my 2 liters. There are 3 different programs that can assist you with creating groups of tasks. They are Set Cycle, Work with Locations, and Work with Products. You can then use the procedure FiCount to assign those groups as tasks for users. So for those of you not as familiar with these programs, I'm actually going to be doing an in-depth webinar on December 6th, so you can learn the ins and outs of creating groups and assigning tasks. After you assign your tasks to your users, it's time to start counting. The following will be how you will perform your initial count and any recounts. So what we're going to do is go out to the warehouse and we're going to get started. And on your mobile device, you're going to open up Chrome and go to the URL that's provided to you when you purchase your EasyOps license. Your username and password are going to be the same as they are for Beverage on the web, and then you'll tap sign in. If you're a multi-warehouse location and you have access to more than one warehouse, you'll go ahead and tap the warehouse. And if you have full access to EasyOps, you'll be presented with the following tiles. Remember, the app is built with something called Angular design, so it will change to format to fit your screen. So you may have to scroll up to see all of the tiles we're looking at. You're going to go ahead and select the task tile. A list of tasks available to all the users are going to be visible on the screen. This means anyone that has access to counting tasks can select one to complete. Notice only the count section is highlighted, as we're just working with counting tasks at this time. If you want to see only tasks assigned to that user, tap the Tasks All button. The words are going to change to tasks, WMS 14 VIP, so that's what I'm signed into here, obviously. It'll be whatever your user ID is, that's what you're going to see at the top of the screen. And as you can see, this user right now doesn't have any specific tasks assigned to it, so all I'd have to do is tap the words again to go back to the available cards. So each task option is going to be called a card, and each card will display the location and product. In order to start counting, you're simply going to tap on the card to select it. The user will be told to go to the location, so all you have to do is walk to that location, then either tap the location itself, or you can tap the continue button in the lower corner. You can now see any information related to that task. If you click the lower case I in the black circle, you'll see any pallet level information related to that product. So in this case, if I count one pallet, that will convert to 98 cases, as receiving cases per pallet is that default multiplier that we're using. If I tap on that lowercase I again, this information will disappear. How you choose to count the products will display in the upper right as well. My option is called Show Dates, and in this case, I will see no quantities, but I will see the various layers with their respective code dates that I should expect to count. Code dates will always display as month, month, day, day, year, year, year. Then the code date format that you have assigned to that product via Work with Products is also going to display on that screen. Notice the screen also lets you know if you've taken a count or completed or not. And the cool part about this task is in order to complete the task, you have to actually count both locations. Otherwise, the task doesn't say that it's actually been completed. When I check the location for this code date, I don't find any product with the code date of 8/13/18. So I'll press the 0 button. So this is actually an improvement if you're using RFTask, because you used to have to actually tap on the item or go into the item to actually zero it out. So this is a much faster way to zero out the information. Notice that my count has changed from not taken to 0 inventory. I'll then tap anywhere in the next code date option, as I do see that this code date is actually physically in that location. After I tap that, I'll be taken into a screen where I can count the products. I can count this product by pallets or cases, and if the cases per tier field was populated in Work with Products, I would also be able to count by tiers. If this product was sold by eaches, I'd see that prompt here as well. I'll go ahead and tap the +1 button to count one pallet. Notice the screen shows me the multiplier for cases per pallet that is being used. So this is a great way to double check and make sure that your data is correct. So obviously if you want to count by pallets, making sure it's doing the multiplication appropriately. For those of you having issues with the equipment keyboard, so the keyboard that's provided via the iOS device or the Android device that you're using, you can use the built-in application keyboard by pressing on the Options button in the top right corner of EasyOps and selecting Current Keyboard. To select the keyboard option, you do have to be on a screen where you can enter quantities. You can select between a single line of numbers, 3 lines, or continue using the device's keyboard. If I choose the 1-line option here, That's going to display like this on the screen. The keyboard will not appear until you actually click into a field requiring numbers. Once you're done counting the product, click the Done button. You'll be returned to the screen displaying the layers for that location. If you would like to add a different code date not in the layer file, click the Add button. Enter the code date and count for that new layer of the product, then press Done. If you press the short stack in the lower right-hand corner, you will be prompted to add a different product to that location. Just tap in the grayed out section to cancel out in case you accidentally hit this button. When you're done counting the product in that location, press the Done Counting button in the lower right. The task will drop off the screen and the user can select the next location. To exit the task counts procedure, you're going to press the short stack in the upper left-hand corner. Okay, so now what we're going to do is we are going to do a demo. So I'm going to swap over here to Chrome, and you can see that I'm actually logging in with my username, my email for Beverage on the Web, and of course my password here. So I'm going to go ahead and sign in. And I'm going to go up here to whatever warehouse I'd be working in and click on that. And then I'm going to scroll down to the taskbar here, and I'm going to go ahead and click on that. And what we're going to see, of course, is all of those tasks. So basically, I'm doing the demo just to make sure that you guys can understand. It's really quick. So I'm going to come in here, tap on a task that I'm going to start counting. I can either tap up here on the location, or I can tap down here on continue. Doesn't matter. Go ahead and tap. And then I'm going to see here that I've got my item that I want to count in this location. I'm going to simply tap on it to start counting. I go to the location, of course. I've already counted, let's say, 1 pallet. Let's say that there's 5 cases. I'm going to go ahead and tap in cases, and I've got my keyboard turned on. So I'll go ahead and tap that there. Hit done. And I've already counted that item. I'm done counting there. So I can move right on to the next task. It's really that fast for your users when they come in every single day. So I'm going to swap back over to the PowerPoint. And now that we have gone ahead and counted our tasks, we're going to go ahead and move on to what happens if we have any variances in the system. So back on the dashboard, remember I showed you how to exit the task program. We're now going to choose the Count Task Variances tile. In order to understand correcting variances, we have to understand the vary layer. So this is important. This is a location that the system creates during the task counting process. This is not a location that is manually created in Work with Locations and should not be used to move product in and out of during other procedures, such as receiving or product movement. The vary layer is created to always balance the layer file to the on-hand file. So I did 3 webinars earlier this year that explain the concepts of LBI, and in part 2, I review the vary layer more in depth. But what I thought I would do is a quick recap of how the vary layer gets created for everybody on this seminar today. So you need to know that when you count during task-based counting, you are actively changing that location. So the most important thing is that the total in the layer file always matches the total in the on-hand file. So you can see here that Alpha 101 actually contains -4 cases in the layer file. So of course, there's obviously not -4 cases in your actual warehouse. So in reality, you can see there that there are 68 cases. So I explain in one of my previous webinars how this negative number could have happened. So go back and watch those just in case you're confused. But when I count A101 as part of my task, I'm actually going to change that -4 to 68 cases. And when I do this, this creates a vary layer. This layer is created to keep the layer file and the on-hand file in balance. So any items that have a vary layer will then display in the list of count task variances, and that's what we're using now. We're moved on to the different tile called count task variances. So this is that vary list, and any items in this list have at least one layer in the location called vary. So the idea is to fix that variance, as the amount of product in vary is basically a fictitious number, and it's helping us balance the files. So before we address the variance, let's first review what we see on this screen here. Each variance task will be listed on the screen. You will see the product ID number, the name, and the variance amount. We simplified the variance amount by including the words over or short rather than using a negative symbol like we did on the RF units. One of the options the user has is to be able to sort the variance tasks by quantity, ascending or descending. So this is going to allow you to focus on the biggest or smallest variances first. Another option is to filter out any cases that have a variance over a certain amount. So this again allows you to focus on some of those bigger issues. Notice here I have a variance of 18 cases for this product right here. If I type in 20 in the minimum variances, you can see right next to the orange arrow, to include option, those 18 cases drop from my view. So you can see that item is no longer on the page. Notice here that the screen lets me know that the page has been filtered. That other product still has a variance, I just don't see it based on my filtering. On the touchscreen devices that you might be using out in the warehouse, iPads, Android devices, whatever they might be, you can do something called a long finger press or a touch and hold. So by touching and holding on any of the tasks on the screen, you can activate another feature. In the upper right-hand corner of the screen, there's an icon that denotes a long finger press. So instead of having to remember to do that, we added an icon for you. So basically, you can tap this button instead. And when you press that button, you will notice the screen actually changes. You have now activated the option to create recount tasks based on items in variance. You can press the double check icon to select all the items in variance, or you can touch the checkbox next to each item. Notice that the clipboard icon in the upper right, by tapping on this, any items you have selected will be selected for recounts, meaning the count tasks like we just reviewed. So basically, I've come in here as a supervisor, I'm looking through, I want my users to go back out and do recounts. Perhaps I want them to do blind recounts. I don't want them to be able to see the variances. That's what this whole process is doing for me here. After tapping the clipboard, a screen's going to appear allowing you to assign the new count task to either any users, which is that star any, or to a specific user, and you're going to type in the iSeries ID, not the EasyOps login, of that user to assign it to them. The priority is going to default to 2, and if you'd like those recounts to be at the top of that user's counting list, you're going to change that to a 1. If you'd like them to be counted after their current counts, meaning they might still be counting other places the warehouse first counts, you're going to change that to a 3 or higher. Then you'll press OK. So something I do want you to note, I put a little box in there for you guys, but the type of count that is created for a recount is controlled with Z control 3405. And you cannot control that within EasyOps. So if you want them to be quantity only blind, show dates, show all, make sure you set that in that Z control there for any of the recount features. What you'll notice after you press OK is that all of those tasks, they still remain on this screen here. You didn't remove the vary layer for any of these items. You simply assigned those items to be counted again via the tasks tile. Not only is the user going to go to the original location they counted, but they're also going to go to all the existing locations. So they're going to be told to go to the pick, the backstock, and any staging locations for that item. The reason you might be using this recount, obviously, is to allow your staff to recount the variances without being able to see them. So after the recounts have been taken, if the over or short was rectified, meaning they found the missing product or the over product somewhere else, they corrected it, that item is actually going to drop from this list here because there's no longer going to be a vary layer. You can repeat the recount process as many times as you like. So let's say all of our blind recounts have been completed and we would like to do a final recount. So now we're actually in RF vary and we can see those overs and shorts. This is the last time we're going to count. So what we're going to do is tap anywhere on the item except the adjust button. The screen's then going to display all the layers associated with this item. Notice the screen looks very similar to when we were task counting, except now I can see all the locations that the product exists in. I can also see how much I am over or under. Now my job is to walk to every location listed and confirm how much product is there one last time. The idea is that I should find the variance in one of these existing locations or somewhere else in the warehouse, and I can add that location to the layers. Note that none of this is removing inventory from my on hand. I'm simply reorganizing the layer file. So let's say I walk over to Bravo 1401 and I see no product. Okay, so that's simple. I can easily zero out that location by pressing the 0 button. A confirmation message will appear. Remember, you're not adjusting out inventory, just rearranging it. So it may make the vary layer larger, or hopefully it decreases the vary layer. Okay. Next, I walk over to Bravo 1412 and I see there is less than a pallet of product. I can tap anywhere in that section to do a recount. And instead of one pallet, which is 84 cases, I see only 70 cases. Someone just miscalculated when they were looking at the pallet. I'll remove my pallet amount and then type in 70 in the cases section, then I'll press done. The case amount for that location will now be 70 cases, but notice I no longer have a variance amount. When I press done on this screen, that product no longer exists in my list of variance items. After looking through each item and doing the final recounts, we're now ready to do some adjustments. So I went through all of those items that I had and I've got them down to as low as I think they could be. What we're going to do now is look at the adjust quantity button. So notice in the lower right hand corner of the screen, there's an adjust based on quantity button. What I'm about to do from here going forward is actually going to adjust inventory. So it's important to understand. So when you press this button, the system will now allow you to make adjustments quickly based on any variance less than or equal to the number you choose. So this will make inventory adjustments to all the products right now that I'm showing you here with a variance over or short of 2 or less. So the other way to adjust inventory is item by item. Next to each item, you will notice an adjust button. So by pressing one of these, you will be asked to adjust inventory. So in this case, I will be reducing inventory by 1 case. The system will always ask you to confirm in case it was an accidental button press. So I'm going to go ahead and tap yes. And then that item will actually no longer have a vary layer, so it will no longer display on my screen. One of the last features I'd like to show you guys is the search option. This actually exists in not just here in EasyOps, not just task-based counting, but it's in many of the other programs, receiving and so on. But basically, if at any time you want to search for a specific item by name or a specific thing on the screen there, you're going to press the magnifying glass in the upper right. And this is going to bring up a search bar where you can type the name of the product you're looking for, in this case here. Notice the screen's automatically going to start looking for that item. So when you're done searching, all you have to do is press that back arrow next to the search field and it'll bring you back to the main screen. So that's task-based counting and count variances. If you want to know more in EasyOps, you can click on the options button in the upper right corner of EasyOps at any time. Check out the What's New section for recent changes. We do make changes during the maintenance window updates. And the quick reference for basic how-to. So that's really good. That's going to go over like how to use receiving, how to use count tasks, so on and so forth as well. As always, I give you some things to consider, some things to think about before you get started. You do have to be on the latest versions of 14 or 15 in order to use task-based counting. Some of you might be thinking, hey, I really want a report to show the variances. We do have a report. It's called LocPR I'd actually recommend you run that after each set of tasks, and then basically you'll have, hey, this was what is the variance the first count, hey, here's what is the variance the second count, so on and so forth. Something else you guys should know is that iDig will actually give you the inventory adjustments report, so you can always get information from there. And some of you might have been saying, hey, I don't want people out on the floor adjusting my inventory. That sounds terrible. You do have the ability to lock it down by user. You can remove just the adjust by quantity feature. You could remove the adjust overall feature if you want. You can even remove that entire tile and you can't see the count task variance tile in general. Excuse me. There are some settings that you might need to make changes in and work with roles. They're pretty straightforward. A lot of our documentation goes over it, but give us a ring if you have any questions. And of course, there's a few Z controls that I didn't go over here today that you might have questions about. Just give us a ring. Again, we'll talk about those, and I'll try to add anything important in the Q&A documents as well. So if you've never attended a webinar, I forgot to tell you at the beginning, you can't talk. So what you can do is enter in questions and I can go over those questions. So what I'm going to do is just see if we have any questions right now and pull that up. It does take me a little bit here. Well, I got a comment at least. Someone said much better. Thank you very much. We appreciate that. We're hoping this is a big difference between the RF units and hoping you guys really enjoy this. EasyOps does not show tasks as an option for us currently. I know the update was Saturday. Any ideas? Yeah, we can. Most likely, you're probably missing a couple of TRs. So what happens is, when I say TRs, I do mean tech requests. That's part of the update piece. So basically, when we update information on the weekends, that is happening at a web-based level when we're doing the maintenance window. You also might need to upgrade or update. So if you're on 14, you might need to be the latest mod level 14. So we could take a look at that. If go ahead and give us a call if any of you guys do have issues not being able to see those tasks. It's probably one of those things going on, and we can take a look at that as well. So one of the other things I'm going to know, this is going to be new. So what I'm going to start doing now is I'm going to give 2 webinars a month. I am going to be giving a webinar in 2 weeks, no, 3 weeks I think it is, on December 6th. I'm going to go over set cycle and phi count. That does kind of tie into this, but I was running out of time. I'm going to talk about cross-docking in December, so that's going to be much like this, a long version of our webinars. And from now on, I'm always going to do a longer webinar like these and a short webinar every month. So in January, you guys can look forward to seeing EasyPick. That'll be my longer webinar. And then I'll do a short webinar on Pictor and Wave Edit. So someone else said we're now on V15. Who do we contact for purchasing EasyOps? Go ahead and reach out to your sales reps. One of your reps, you guys probably have one of 3 reps, I'm guessing, or maybe 4. Katie Chaquette, Carly West, Ed Browning, and Brad Courier. So I'm guessing one of those reps is probably yours, depending on who you guys have. Reach out and they'll get you rolling with an EasyOps license as well. Go ahead and keep putting in questions. I'm going to leave it open for about another 5 minutes. And then what I always do, just so you guys always know, is I take all of these questions and I send out a Q&A afterwards, and I'll answer everything that is in here. And then I also provide the slides. So if you're looking for these slides, I'll get those in there, and then we'll provide the guide to EasyOps as well, so you guys can see that as well. Hope you enjoyed it. Happy holidays to everybody next week, and I'll see you in a few weeks. Thanks very much.